Story 1. My son, Evan, was 6 when he started drawing the girl behind the tree. At first, I didn't think much of it. He'd always been into sketching, scribbling with crayons and markers. Pirate ships, monsters, dinosaurs. But this was different. This was repetitive. Every page was the same. A backyard with a single tree in the middle, and behind it, the hint of a small figure. I noticed it while cleaning his room. Stacks of paper tucked under the bed. At least a dozen drawings. All of them are nearly identical. The tree, the swing, and barely visible. Hidden just enough to make you squint. A girl with long black hair, peeking out from behind the bark. I showed them to Evan, thinking maybe he'd explain it was a character from a cartoon or a game. But when I asked, he just said, "That's where she stands." I blinked. "Who?" "The girl," he said like it was obvious. "She watches sometimes." That alone made me uneasy, but I didn't want to overreact. Kids say weird things all the time. Imaginary friends. Ghost stories they overhear. I smiled and asked, "What's her name?" He shrugged. "She won't tell me." That night, after I tucked him in, I stood by the window and looked out into our yard. The tree was there, just like in the drawing. The swing swayed gently in the wind. Nothing unusual, but I still closed the blinds. The next day, there was a new drawing. Same scene, except this time, the girl was more visible. Not just a peak of hair, but half of her face, pale, expressionless. Black pits for eyes. I brought it to my husband, Matt. "Have you seen these?" He flipped through the stack and gave me a look. "Creepy, sure, but it's just a kid's imagination. Probably something he saw online." "He doesn't use the internet like that," I said, "and he keeps saying she watches him." "He's 6, Amy. Let's not read too much into it." But I couldn't shake the feeling. That night I stood at the back door staring into the yard. The swing was still. No movement, no sound. Yet I felt watched. The hairs on my arms stood up like static. I locked the door. 2 days later, Evan refused to go outside. "She's out there," he whispered to me. "I saw her face. She's mad now." That stopped me cold. Why would she be mad? "Because I looked too long," he said. "She doesn't like that." I crouched to meet his eyes. "Evan, sweetie, there's no girl out there. You know that, right?" His lip trembled. "You don't see her, but I do. She told me you would say that." I tried to keep calm, assure him it was all pretend. But when I looked out again, the swing was moving, slowly swaying back and forth, and the air felt colder than it should have been. The next morning, I woke up to Evan screaming. I ran to his room and found him curled in the corner, clutching his drawing pad. He wouldn't speak, wouldn't blink, just held that pad to his chest like it was a shield. I gently pried it from his fingers. The page was soaked in black crayon, almost nothing distinguishable, just chaotic spirals and jagged lines. But in the center was a small figure, not behind the tree this time, in front of it, and she was smiling, a wide, unnatural grin. My heart dropped. I showed Matt, who finally started to worry. "Maybe he needs to see someone," he admitted. "A counselor, maybe." "It's more than that," I said. "He's scared, Matt, really scared. Something is wrong." That night, I installed a motion-activated camera in the backyard, aimed right at the tree, just for peace of mind. Nothing happened the first night, nothing the second, but on the third night, I woke up to the monitor flashing. A notification, motion detected. I opened the app, and the footage played. For a second, I thought it was a glitch, just static. Then I saw it, a shape, a figure, small, hunched, moving behind the tree. It was only visible for a second, but it was there. It wasn't Evan. It wasn't anyone I recognized. And its head snapped up toward the camera before the feed cut out. I sat frozen, heart pounding. I ran to Evan's room. He was asleep, but restless, twitching. I looked out the window toward the yard. The swing moved again, just once, then stopped. The next morning, Evan had drawn again. The girl was gone from behind the tree. This time she was closer, standing beside the swing, and in her hand she held something small, a crayon, red, just like the ones Evan used. And on the back of the page, in shaky, childish handwriting, were 4 words: "Don't look at her." I didn't send Evan to school that day. Something about the drawing, the red crayon, the words on the back, had shaken me to my core. Don't look at her. 4 words that sounded less like a child's game and more like a warning. Evan barely spoke during breakfast. He picked at his cereal, eyes sunken, distant. He hadn't drawn anything new since the night before, and when I offered him a fresh pad, he pushed it away like it burned him. "She's close now," he said under his breath. "She comes to the window when I sleep." Matt stayed home too. We sat together watching the camera feed like nervous guards. All day, nothing. No movement, no shadow, no glitch. I started to feel like I was unraveling, my sanity splintering every time I looked at the backyard. At one point, I caught Evan standing in front of the window, unmoving, staring into the yard. "What are you looking at?" I asked. "She's in the tree now," he said without turning. "She's waiting." That night, I moved Evan into our room. I wasn't going to take any chances. He fell asleep between us, finally peaceful, and for the first time in days, I allowed myself to close my eyes. But I woke up around 3 a.m. to silence. Not just normal silence, but the kind that hums in your ears, where even the night feels paused. I turned and realized Evan wasn't in the bed. My heart dropped. I got up, calling his name in a whisper shout, trying not to wake Matt. No response. I opened the bedroom door and saw it. Light, coming from his room. His door was slightly open, and inside, I heard the soft scrape of crayons. "Evan?" I pushed the door open. He was sitting on the floor, hunched over his sketch pad. Surrounding him were pages and pages of drawings. Dozens of them, maybe more. They fluttered as if stirred by wind that wasn't there. The same tree, the same girl, only this time she wasn't hiding anymore. In every picture she was closer, closer, until the last few showed her inside the house. One picture at the foot of our staircase, one in the hallway, one right behind Evan's door, and the last drawing, that she was standing over our bed. "Evan," I choked out, "why are you drawing these?" He didn't look up. His hand moved fast, frantic. "I have to. She makes me. If I stop, she gets mad." I walked to him, knelt, and tried to take the crayon. His fingers were ice cold. He looked at me then, and his eyes were bloodshot, terrified. "She's behind you." I spun around. Nothing, but I felt it. That unmistakable pressure, like someone was inches from your neck. I grabbed Evan and pulled him into my arms. "We're leaving. Now." I shook Matt awake and told him we had to go. He didn't argue. By then, he believed me. We packed up and left the house before sunrise and went to stay with Matt's sister in another town. Evan stopped drawing. Days passed. Then weeks. The nightmares stopped. He slept through the night. He smiled again. We thought we were free, until we got a call from our realtor. "I just wanted to let you know the listing photos went live today," she said. "And, there's something weird." My chest tightened. "Weird how?" "One of the backyard shots," she said. "There's someone in it. A child, maybe. We didn't see her during the shoot, but she's just standing there behind the tree." I opened the listing and scrolled through the photos. Living room, kitchen, upstairs hallway, then the backyard. And there she was, barely visible. But there, just like Evan's drawings. Long black hair, pale skin, watching, waiting. I closed the browser and deleted the listing from my bookmarks. "We're never going back," I told Matt. "We sell it as is." That night, Evan came into our room again. He hadn't done that in weeks. "Mom," he whispered, "I had a dream." "What about?" I asked gently. "She said she's not done with me." I hugged him close, not knowing what to say. But when I tucked him back in, I found something under his pillow. A drawing. One I hadn't seen before. It was a picture of our new house. The living room, the couch, the window, and behind, the window curtain. Just a shadow, but unmistakable, was her. I flipped the page, and on the back, in the same shaky hand, 4 new words. You moved too late. Story 2. I'm a 2nd grade teacher in a small town just outside of Denver. I've taught for 13 years, and I've seen plenty of strange things. Kids saying odd stuff, imaginary friends that felt a little too real, drawings that made me question what went on behind closed doors. But nothing like this. It started with a picture. A little girl named Emily handed it to me after lunch. She was quiet, sweet, a bit of a loner, but always respectful. That day she tugged at my sleeve and held out a folded piece of paper, her big brown eyes avoiding mine. "It's my birthday," she said softly. "I drew this for you." I smiled and thanked her, thinking it was a sweet gesture. But when I opened the paper, my stomach dropped. It was a drawing of a birthday party, but not just any birthday party. This one looked wrong. The people in the picture had no eyes. Their mouths were stretched open unnaturally, almost like they were screaming. The cake in the center had candles that melted into black puddles, and off to the side was a tall figure with long hair, holding something red in one hand. It wasn't a balloon. It looked like a heart. "Emily," I said as gently as I could, "this is very creative. Can you tell me who the people are?" She nodded. "That's Mommy, and that's my brother, and those are my friends." Her finger traced over each eyeless figure. "And who's that?" I asked, pointing to the tall one. She went quiet. "That's Mommy too. You drew her twice?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "That's the other Mommy. She comes when I sleep." I didn't know what to say. I thanked her again and slid the drawing into my folder. Maybe it was just a child's imagination. Maybe. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that picture. The mouths. The dripping candles. That tall, second version of Mommy. I decided to ask our school counselor about it the next day. Before I could, Emily came in with another drawing. This time, it was more detailed. The same scene. The same birthday party. Only now the figures had names scrawled above their heads. Emily, Ryan, Mom, and chillingly, Mrs. Daniels. That was me. I looked at her and smiled carefully. "Why did you put me in the picture, sweetie?" She looked confused. "Because you came to the party," I swallowed. "But you said it was your birthday today, right? When was this party?" She blinked. "It hasn't happened yet." I didn't take my eyes off her. "Emily, when is your real birthday?" She answered flatly. "I don't have one." I called the front office to check her student file. Her birthday wasn't listed. I asked the secretary if that was a mistake. She frowned. Her enrollment came from a foster agency. They didn't provide a birth certificate. Something about that made the hairs on my arms rise. That afternoon, I couldn't focus. I stayed late in my classroom, looking through both drawings again. I flipped over the second one. On the back, in blocky, uneven letters, it read, "She makes me draw it, so you'll come." That night, I called the foster agency listed in her file. The woman on the phone said she'd call me back. She never did. The next day, Emily wasn't in school. I asked the other kids if they'd seen her. No one had. Her desk stayed empty all morning. Around lunchtime, a man came to the classroom door. He didn't knock, just stood there. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" I asked. He didn't respond, just stared. Then finally said, "Emily says thank you," and walked away. I ran after him, but by the time I reached the hallway, he was gone. No sign of him. I checked the security footage. There was no record of him entering the building. The cameras just showed my classroom door opening, with no one standing there. I went home that night and found a folded drawing tucked under my doormat. The same party. Same figures. But now, the candles were lit, and all the mouths were smiling. Mine included. And the figure in the back? The one labeled, Other mommy? She was closer now. Much closer. I burned the picture. Told myself I was being paranoid. Told myself it was over. Until the next morning, when I checked my mailbox and found one last drawing. It was a room. My room. The bed, the lamp, the cracked ceiling, all drawn perfectly. And at the foot of the bed, the figure, the tall, smiling woman. And beside her, holding her hand, was Emily. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the final drawing, the one with my bedroom. Every detail was too accurate. Even the tiny crack in my ceiling, something I'd never noticed until now, was perfectly drawn. I checked every lock, every window, and turned on every light, but somehow I still felt like someone was already inside. The next morning, I went to school, trying to pretend nothing had happened. Emily still hadn't returned. Her desk sat in the corner like a quiet accusation. I asked the principal if there had been any updates. He said no one at the foster agency had called back. No one had responded to emails. They didn't even answer the door when someone from administration visited in person. It's like the place doesn't exist, he said with a nervous smile. That's when I decided to go myself. I looked up the address listed in her file and drove out there. It was nearly an hour away, tucked behind back roads and winding woods. When I arrived, I found an old farmhouse. Dilapidated, sagging windows were boarded. No sign of life, no cars, no lights. But the porch had one thing. A child's drawing was taped to the front door. I didn't want to approach, but I had to know. I walked slowly, my steps crunching on loose gravel. The drawing was of the same party, but this time, all the people were sitting at a long table, candles lit, smile too wide. The other mommy is standing behind them, in her hand a cake knife. Below it, in bright red crayon, were the words, "Today is the real party." I left, fast, got in my car and didn't look back. But when I reached my apartment later that evening, there was another drawing tucked under my door. This time, it was just the other mommy, alone, no party, no kids, just her, staring out of the page. The words scrawled below said, "We missed you." That night, I dreamed of her. I was back in my classroom. All the desks were empty, except one. Emily sat there, coloring. I approached, called her name, but she didn't look up, just kept drawing. I touched her shoulder. She looked at me then, and whispered, "You came late." She's angry now. I turned around and saw the figure. Tall, hair like smoke, skin the color of wet ash. Her smile reached too far across her face. Her eyes were black, not just dark, absent, like holes. And then I woke up, drenched in sweat, but the smell of smoke lingered. That was the last straw. I contacted the police, told them everything, about the drawings, the strange man, the missing child, the boarded up house. They looked at me like I was insane. "There's no record of an Emily Morris enrolled here," the officer said. "No transfer forms. No foster agency under that name either." I insisted. I showed them the drawings. They took them, but I could tell they didn't believe me. Thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. Maybe I still am. I tried to find her file in the school system. It was gone. No trace. No attendance. Nothing. Her desk was reassigned. Her name was never on the seating chart. I even asked the kids again, "Do you remember Emily?" They just looked at me blankly. One girl said, "Is that a new student?" and laughed. I went home. I started packing. I didn't feel safe in that apartment anymore. Not when the drawings kept showing up. On my bathroom mirror, under my pillow, inside the fridge. The last one made me stop cold. It was me. Just me. Lying in bed, eyes closed. The other mommy standing above me, her hand stretched out like she was about to touch my face. On the back it said, "She picked you next." I burned it. I tried to leave town. Got in my car, headed west, no plan, just away. But every motel I stopped at, I'd find another drawing waiting, sometimes tucked into the bedspread, sometimes inside the glove box, sometimes, somehow, in my own jacket pocket. They all had one thing in common. The party kept growing. More guests, more candles, and I was always in the center. Last week I woke up in a hotel room in Utah. I'd driven through the night and finally passed out around 3 a.m. When I opened my eyes, the room felt cold, too cold, and my phone was gone. I reached for the nightstand, empty, but sitting there was a familiar folded paper. I didn't want to open it, but I did. And this time, it wasn't a party. It was a classroom. My classroom. Empty desks. Except one. Emily's desk. In it, a single drawing of me, standing at the front, smiling. And behind me, towering, was she. The other mommy. She wasn't smiling anymore. She had no face at all. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't teach. I don't sleep. I check over my shoulder everywhere I go. But every time I close my eyes, I feel her there, watching, waiting, somewhere between a child's imagination and something much older, much darker. If you ever see a drawing taped to your door, don't open it, don't look inside, and for God's sake, don't go to the party. Story 3. It was a warm evening when my sister and I first saw the house. We were driving through the countryside, trying to get away from everything for a weekend. No phones, no deadlines. Just two sisters on a random backroad adventure. That's when we saw it. Tucked deep in a field of swaying weeds, hidden behind a crooked fence and rows of leaning trees, was the strangest house I'd ever laid eyes on. At first, we thought it was abandoned. The windows were blacked out, the paint chipped and peeling like old skin, and the roof slightly caved on one side. But something about it made us stop the car. We just sat there, staring. My sister Mia pointed something out. There's no door. She was right. There was no visible entrance, no front door, no porch, not even a path leading up to it. Just a solid wall of rotted wood and those dark, lifeless windows. We both laughed at first. Maybe the door's on the other side, I said, but a chill ran through me anyway. I should have left it at that. Should have driven on and forgotten it. But curiosity, it's a dangerous thing. We found a tiny trail off the road that led to the property. It was overgrown, narrow, and clearly untouched for years. We followed it anyway, crunching through dead grass and dry twigs. The house loomed larger the closer we got. And stranger, every side we walked around, the same story. No door. Just smooth wood where a door should be. No markings. No hinges. No handle. It's just a shed, Mia suggested. But sheds don't have curtains or window boxes with dead flowers, or the faint, unmistakable sound of music coming from inside. It was faint, but real. A music box or something like it, playing the same melody on repeat. Slow, tinny, sad. I leaned close to one of the windows, tried to peer in, but it was pitch black, like the glass wasn't glass at all, but something solid, something that didn't want to be seen through. Then, just as I was about to step back, I saw it, a movement, a silhouette inside, just for a second, a child, standing perfectly still. My heart jumped. I looked at Mia. Did you see that? She shook her head. But when I looked back, the music had stopped, and there was something new. A small drawing was taped to the glass from the inside. It hadn't been there before. It was a crayon sketch. 3 figures. 2 tall, 1 small, all standing in front of a house with no door. The title scribbled above it, The Visitors. Mia was done. She backed away, shaking her head, muttering that we needed to leave, and I agreed. But as we turned to go, something made me look back. The drawing was gone, and in its place, our reflection, or what should have been our reflection. Instead, it was just me, alone, staring back, a version of me that didn't move when I did, Didn't blink, just smiled. And that smile was too wide, too wrong. I don't remember the drive back to the cabin, just flashes. Mia was gripping the wheel tightly. My hands are shaking. That music is still echoing in my ears. That night, neither of us slept. We locked the doors, closed the blinds, and tried to forget it. But in the morning, when we stepped out to leave, there was something waiting on the windshield. Another drawing. Same 3 figures. But this time, the tall ones were inside the house, and the small ones stood outside crying. I felt cold all over. We drove back to town, straight to the sheriff's office, told them what we'd seen, showed them the drawing. They looked at us like we were high or crazy or both. There's no house like that around here, they said. Plenty of old barns, but nothing livable out that way. I insisted. I pulled out my phone to show them a picture, but my phone was blank. The gallery is empty. Even the photo I was sure I'd taken of the window, gone. Mia's phone? Same thing. It was like it had never happened. We left, humiliated, confused. And when we got back home, I tried to move on, focus on work, forget the countryside. But then, the drawings started arriving, one by one, in the mail. No return address. Always on crumpled paper, always in crayon. The figures kept changing positions. Sometimes the child was inside. Sometimes the tall ones were standing alone. Sometimes all 3 were missing. The last one came 2 nights ago. It was left on my pillow while I was in the shower. That music box song started playing from my living room. But I don't own a music box. I haven't opened the drawing yet. It's still sitting beside my bed, folded, waiting. I don't know what I'll find, but I think I already know. It'll be a house, no door, and me on the inside. I didn't sleep that night. The unopened drawing sat on my nightstand, its edges curling, the paper old, like it had come from somewhere it shouldn't. I kept looking at it, trying to decide if I should open it or burn it. My hands trembled either way. At 2:17 a.m., I heard something. At first, I thought it was the wind, but No.it was that same music again. The faint, eerie tune of the music box, coming from outside my window. I live on the 2nd floor. That's when I knew it wasn't just in my head. I grabbed my phone. No signal. No Wi-Fi. No missed calls. Only one new notification. A file. Audio. No sender. Just one word in the title. Inside. Against my better judgment, I played it, and it was the music. But layered underneath, buried in the static, was a whisper. A child's voice, repeating something over and over. You were invited. You were invited. You were invited. I ran to the window. Nothing. No one. But taped to the outside of the glass, somehow stuck there 2 stories up, was another drawing. This time, it was just the house. A black outline. And from one of the windows, a figure was waving. That same wrong smile, drawn in red. And below it, scribbled in a child's hand, were 3 words. Coming to visit. The next day, I tried to shake it off. Threw away the paper. Reset my phone. Burned the unopened drawing in the sink. It didn't matter. That night, my sister called me. Mia. Her voice was shaking. They're here. That's all she said. I drove to her apartment in under 10 minutes, kicked in the door, and she was gone. Her place looked untouched. No signs of struggle. No note. No phone. But the living room was filled with drawings. Hundreds. Piled on the floor, taped to walls, stuck inside her refrigerator. Drawings of the house. Of her. Of me. Some of them are moving. Yes, moving. The crayon figures would twitch when I wasn't looking directly at them. One drawing fell from the wall as I stared. It was fresh, still smelled of wax. It showed me, right now, standing in her living room, and behind me, the window, with something watching. I turned so fast I nearly fell. Nothing there, just the glass, and my own reflection, slightly delayed, slightly off. Smiling, I left the apartment, called the police. They found nothing. No signs of Mia. No DNA. No trace she'd ever lived there. Her name wasn't in the lease. Her social profiles are gone. Her number disconnected. Like she never existed. But I remember. I remember everything. I'm the only one who does. Now every night the music returns. The drawings appear. Sometimes under my pillow. Sometimes taped to my bathroom mirror. Always evolving. The last one showed the house again. But it wasn't drawn anymore. It was a photograph. Real. Clear. In full color. With me standing at the window. Looking out. I tried to get rid of it. Burn it. Tear it. But it came back. On my fridge the next morning. As if the house is creeping closer. Every time I sleep, I see it. In my dreams. Not as a building anymore. As a place inside me. Something I carry. Something opening from within. A door forming behind my ribs. A room is growing in my mind. And I think I know what it wants. Not my body. Not my soul. It wants my memory. My sense of reality. It wants me to believe I was always there. That there was no other life. That I was always part of the house. Last night, I looked in the mirror. And for the first time, my reflection didn't move at all. It just stared. Behind me, in the glass, the window of that house appeared. Real. With a small figure peeking out. The same child. The same smile. I blinked. And she blinked too. My reflection was gone. Just that girl. Just the house. I know what's next. I've stopped fighting it. I've started sketching. My hands move on their own now. Drawing the house, the figures, the trees. Drawing you. Whoever reads this. You'll see it soon too. The drawings always find a way. And once you see them, they see you. You'll hear the music. Smell the wax. Feel the room forming behind your ribs. And one night, you'll dream of a place with no doors. No way in, no way out. Only you, inside. And when you wake, there'll be a drawing on your desk, or under your pillow, or behind your eyes. And the title will say, The New Visitor. When it comes, don't open it. Whatever you do, don't open it.